Mr. Abel Maldonado is now going to be introduced by Mr. Bowtie, Charles Munger.
Good evening. My name is Charles Munger. I have the honor to be the chairman of the Santa Clara County Republican Party. And if you think voters aren't listening to us, how about passing pension reform in the city of San Jose with 69% of the vote? But I'm not here in my office as the Santa Clara party chair, because to my sorrow, this gentleman I'm about to introduce is not in my county. But I am here because I was the author, proponent, wallet, and campaign manager for Proposition 20, which in 2010 took the power to draw the congressional districts from Nancy Pelosi and now Brown, Perez, and Steinberg and gave it to a panel of citizens. And I want to tell you that in this state of California where you sit, where for the past decade there was one seat that would ever change hands, you now have a dozen races which are wide open up and down the state for you to win. This is not an election cycle for Republicans to say, well, if they're not in my district, I'm just not that interested. You can choose which hand picks up the gavel in the House of Representatives. When Nancy Pelosi says the path to her speakership lies through California, she is right, and she hates it because she couldn't steal the seats. She has to actually win them. In the redistricting, I was not surprised when what was called nationally the ribbon of shame, the 50-mile district, sometimes only 1,000 feet wide, along the coast, that was carved out for lowest caps, went away. I was not utterly surprised to find out that the new districts in that area actually were competitive between the parties. But I was surprised and deeply delighted to find that the man who would step up to win that seat on the Republican ticket in what is the most competitive race, not in California, but nationally. The man who has served us as a city council member, as a mayor, member of the assembly, member of the state senate, lieutenant governor, is now young gun and will be the next congressional representative of the 24th Congressional District. I can't introduce him, but I can honor his presence. Abel Maldonado.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Charles. And what an amazing man Charles Munger is. And I share this with you because, yeah, let's give him a big round of applause. Charles Munger. You know, he likes to take credit that the city of San Jose passed pension reform. Well, so did the city of San Luis Obispo, the most liberal city in my district, said enough is enough, Charles. So people are listening. Thank you very much for that. I want to say this, because this is important. Charles is right. For 20 years, only one seat changed hands in the congressional districts in California. And there was never competition. And in 2000, members of Congress actually wrote a check for $20,000 for Michael Berman so they can choose their voters instead of the voters choosing the representatives. And that's not the America that my father came to. And through this process, there was this gentleman that stood up to the plate and said, we're going to change the districts. And the districts are going to be drawn by people who care about California, Republicans and Democrats and independents, and now we call them no party preferences in California. And I can say this to you, help is on the way. And we have a dozen congressional districts that are very, very competitive. And I can't wait to serve with Kim Van and Debbie. Is that Debbie? Debbie? Two farmer girls from California. And Ricky Gill wasn't here, but he's a farmer too. And Elizabeth Emkin. And I was standing on this corner over here saying, you know, everybody criticizes that the Republican Party is in Big Tent and has no diversity. We had 3 women speak. If Ricky would have spoke today, we have an immigrant. His parents are from India. And you're looking at an immigrant, a son of immigrants who came to this country looking for an opportunity. And this is the Republican Party that I know. And Charles Munger is allowing us now to have competitive seats. And I'll never forget this. At the beginning of the year, Nancy Pelosi said, the way back to me getting the gavel in the U.S. House of Representatives is through California. Well, guess what? She ain't getting the gavel. And it's not going to come from California. We know that. So all I can say is that, when I was introduced earlier, they said that I did a lot of heavy lifting. Well, let me share something with you. I worked hard in Sacramento, but this man here to the right did a lot of heavy lifting, not only with the open primary, but also with redistricting. And wait until 2014. We are going to have some great seats and opportunities in the California State Senate and in the Assembly. We're really looking forward to that. So let me just say a few words, because you've been standing for a long time, why I'm running for Congress. Washington's broken. It really, really is. Only in Washington can they go out there and spend trillions of dollars, put debt on everybody, not work together on anything, stimulus, and I can go on and on and on, lose America's rating, and only in Washington can they say that things are going to get better if we reelect them. It really is true. The people that wreck the ship pretend to be the lifeguards of fixing the problem. I don't get that. And they believe that. So I came back to the district after being lieutenant governor, and I was working on a winery on the ranch there, and then I decided that America's worth fighting for. We just honored a fallen soldier earlier today. And because of that man, that young man, I get to stand here, and all of us get to stand here and say pretty much whatever we want, because this is America. This is the country that allowed my father to come here looking for an opportunity. He met my mother in Pismo Beach, California. She didn't speak English, and my father didn't speak my mom's language, and 11 months later I was born. They spoke the same language, right? We call that communications. But you know what? It's America. And today, my father tells me every day, he said, son, you need to go back there and fight for the American dream. You need to fight for opportunity, because when we came to this country, we didn't come here looking for any free ride whatsoever. We came here looking for an opportunity. And this country afforded my family everything. And now I'm going back there to fight every single day to give that same opportunity to the people that gave us this opportunity. And I can tell you this, at the rate that Congress is going today, there's not many family farmers growing in America today, because you can't. You can't, because of all those costly regulations that Washington's putting on us. They just passed a regulation not long ago that says that they mandated the railroad companies to put an F on the front of the train so the people would know that it's the front. They really did. And they've got another one coming out not long ago. They tried to pass that my kids couldn't work on my farm because the child labor. That's Washington. That's the Washington that I want to go back there and fix. So today I'm asking you to join all of us to help Kim and to help Debbie and to help Ricky and to help Tony Strickland and to help all these candidates that are out there fighting for a better America. I believe help is on the way. And I want to leave you with this. There's a lot of folks that have asked me today about Lois Capps' voting record on Israel. I fell in love with Israel the first time that I went to Israel. I went there as a state senator. And then I went after as a lieutenant governor. And I got to share something with you. I fell in love with this small country that has given us all this dynamic research. I went to Sderot. I called the mayor of Sderot, which is a city that's right next to Gaza. And I said, would you give me an hour of your time to show me what's going on in your city? He said, no, I'm going to give you all day. And I spent all day in the little city of Sderot, and I got to go see manufacturing, I got to go see their community. But let me tell you what got me the most. He took me to the police department. And in the police department in the city of Sderot, in the back, they have a little yard. And in the yard, they have a bunch of little racks. And on those racks, they have a bunch of Kazams. And they put a date on the tail of those rockets. And they put a date that landed on the city of Sderot. In those years that I was there, 380 of them a year. How can those young people, those families live in peace when that is coming across? And let me show you what hurt me the most, that I was reprimanded when I came back to my country when I talked about how horrible the things that were coming into that little city of Sderot and Ashkelon and Ashdod, because one of my best friends from Cal Poly lives in Ashdod to this day. And they says, Abel, you can't talk bad about what's going on over there because they're human beings. I said, you know what? Just send one to L.A. or send one to Santa Barbara and see how people would react in our country. And the other day I went, there's a gentleman named Judge Clark, who was a former national security advisor to President Ronald Reagan. And he fell and he broke his hip, and I found out where he was, and I went to visit him, and I wanted to ask him a question. I went to visit him, and I said, Judge, how are you doing? He says, I'm doing better. I said, Judge, I want to ask you a question. Tell me about Israel. What's going on? Give me a little insight of what's going on in Israel today. You were former national security advisor, Secretary of the Interior, and a very, very close friend of Ronald Reagan. You know what he said to me? He says, Abel, Israel will never wait for our country. Because if they wait for our country today with what we have in Washington, we're gone. And you know what? He's right. He's right. Israel can't wait. And I just want you all to know that when I go to Washington, I don't love the country for what it is. I got a vineyard. And in the Golan Heights, they got some of the best vineyards because they're from the University of UC Davis here, where they're planting all the vineyards back there. They got some of the best wines in the world, that they're doing a great job, but they are going to have an ally in me because I'm never going to waver. Because it is, Alexander Haig said something that I'll never forget. He said, Israel is a floating battleship in the part of the world where everybody's trying to hurt them. But that ship can never be sunk. And we've never lost an American boot. We've never lost an American boot because of Israel. They've always fought their own fights. And I'm here to tell you that I'm going to go back there and fight every day to make sure that that little country that is probably one of the best friends of our life to stay in place. So I'm going to leave you with this because this is important too. America is at a crossroads. This is the most important vote I'm ever going to cast in my life for president. And for those of you who are a little older than me, this is probably the most important vote you're ever going to cast for our country. Because we have a gentleman by the name of Mitt Romney, who is a business owner, who's a businessman, who's done very, very well for his country and for our country. And now we have Paul Ryan as his vice presidential candidate. Two good men who want less government, who want less debt, less spending, and they want a better country with more jobs. And that's your choice. That is your choice in the next 80 days. Or you can continue the status quo. And we know what status quo is. Bigger government, more debt, more spending, less jobs, a lot of hot air, and is really, to a certain point, is un-American. So we've got our work cut out. And if we all come together, in this group here, come together in the next 80 days, we're going to win. Now, I know it's going to be hard for Mitt to win California. But if we work together, we're going to get Debbie elected. We're going to get Kim Vann elected. We're going to get Tony Strickland elected. We're going to get Mr. DeLong elected. We're going to get Ricky Gill elected. And we're going to get David Valadao elected. And we are going to make a change in California. And I want to be in that delegation. I want to be in that delegation that's big for California. And guess what we're going to do once we're elected? We're going to come back, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to elect more people. We're going to get Debbie elected. We're going to try to get her elected this year. It's going to be difficult. I know Jackie Spear. I served with Jackie Spear. Let me share something with you. I actually was with Jackie Spear on a trip one day, and I've never said her name, but I'm going to say it here. She put a scarf on. I said, Senator, that scarf looks beautiful on you. She says, it's a little pricey. And I said, well, Senator, I've served with you for 6 years in the state Senate, and you've never said that a piece of legislation is too pricey. That's the problem with government. When it's the people's money, let's just spend it. When it's their money, they spend it in a different way. We need to spend America's money like we spend our money at home. Thank you very much.